Hi, my name is Tyler Dixon, and this is assignment number 3. So the TED Talk that I found while looking, there was many on music, but I wanted to connect music and technology. So I found this, basically this TED Talk called The DIY Orchestra of the Future. And it's by this guy named G.E. Wang. And basically most of his major points are music technology, applications that he used and created, and then some demonstrations of these things. So just a little background on G.E. Wang. He is the teacher, associate professor of music and computer science at Stanford University. He designs arts and music, and he kind of couples those together with technology. So he has this laptop ensemble called the SLORK, and they use this design technology to make music. Some of the applications that he's created, SMULE, Smule, it's an app that allows people to make music together. He created the Ocarina app. It's a music app that allows people to use their microphone to play an instrument. He also created Magic Piano, and these are all sort of part of Smule. There's sub-applications that he's created. He's done a lot of things outside of the music realm. He actually designed a graphic novel and received a silver award for that as well. So basically in his TED Talk, he sort of opens up by explaining what is computer music and what is music technology. So he justifies a lot of the common questions associated with that. So those kind of questions are, will this hurt the music business? Will the technology replace musicians? And this is a lot of a big problem in the music industry right now. We see all of these kind of self-made home musicians are using technology to their advantage, and it's kind of putting a lot of other musicians out of business. And this is something that he definitely brings up, but sort of kind of avoids because he's very passionate about creating technology and creating music and kind of putting them together. So he's trying to make a sort of a justification for weaving those elements together into a cohesive entity. So some of the applications, as I had mentioned, we have the Smule app that he developed. Basically, the regular app's all the way on the right. The Magic Piano is in the center there, and that's an app that basically has, you can play around with different notes on it and do harmonies and sort of things. And then this Ocarina, which I'll talk about later, is the one on the left there. One of the main things that he talks about in this TED Talk is Chuck. Yes, with a capital K at the end. So basically, Chuck is a code writing program that he uses to make music. So basically, you see other programs like Scratch from MIT. They create this like kind of block based, but this is actual type based programming. So basically he starts with sort of a sine wave oscillation, and this is kind of hard to explain, but we use the sine wave from math on the math classes, and it basically is how music works. The sound itself. He can manipulate the hertz and the frequency, and you can see on the little thing that I've included here, there's a 220 frequency and then a 10 frequency, and these frequencies are changing the notes into hertz, so doubling the hertz will make a perfect octave and whatnot. Then from there he can add the gain, the mix, and all these other sorts of music terms that may not be sort of confusing. But he can also edit duration, changing duration, and make a target of where you need to be. With this, he can also add randomizers and also sorts of different things. So basically, the possibilities are endless when he's creating this music, and is exactly what he demonstrates during this TED Talk using this program, Chuck. So basically, the possibilities are endless when it comes to what he was showing and during this TED Talk. So he used this glove, and it's able to track your movements. He had mentioned that it was actually a thing for video games back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and this technology is very cheap now, and it's able to be used with these programs of writing code for. So he also uses another device that uses something attached to a sort of like a rope with tension on a string, and that uses the tension to create the sound that he has inputted into the code. code. So he emphasizes that he still uses the programs to make the code. And then here's a picture on the right here I've included with showing these gloves that detect motion and they're connected to strings. And this is how he's using his input into the program. And he demonstrates this for quite a bit of the TED Talk. So another thing you can see the picture on the right is this Ocarina app that he has created. So basically this is an app for smartphones. It uses a microphone accelerometer, which is built into many of the smartphones. And you can basically use this accelerometer to talk about sound and specifically air. So by blowing into the phone, you were able to create the phone senses the intensity of the air, and it generates a pitch, and it can kind of change the dynamics, so how loud or soft it is just by how fast or how slow the air is. So that kind of changes it up just a little bit as well. So this can also be set up to harmonize. And he basically shows this to everyone in this TED Talk, and he basically does a Bach composition and he harmonizes with himself using this app. So the ocarina is basically just a very old instrument that's very popular in Zelda, and it's basically just like kind of like a ceramic instrument with holes in it, and there's a set number of fingerings that kind of manipulate the sound. So he kind of introduces some of that and shows how he uses it to basically make the sound and other things. So while at Stanford, I mentioned earlier that GE established this laptop ensemble. So basically, he has developed this ensemble there. So the music majors there would be into it, and as well as non-majors as well. But this has caught attention kind of around the world, and it's being implemented in a lot of other schools on a larger scale that have the funding to be able to do it. So the use of computers to make music. There's also MIDI devices, as you can see in the picture. There's some really weird devices, sort of like dome-like, and they're all used to create inputs basically for the code that he has written. And this can go as far as improvisation and all sorts of other things. And he talks about this ensemble and plays a few clips from the